just leave this beauty and head up this beauty. Well, hello, thanks for joining me. We're on an ancient track. Again, we're on the Fossway. And I'm going to have to put my shades on, but that's appropriate because this is another video in the series about music, and in particular my musical journey. Now, if you can imagine that back in the 1960s and 1970s, you couldn't just type on a keypad anything you wanted to listen to and press search and it would come up. Feel free to enjoy the beautiful nature either side while I talk about this. We had very limited ways. Now, there were a few formats available. They were vinyl records, which are having a resurgence again, although made by petrochemicals, so oh well, not quite so good. Cassette tapes, reel-to-reel, and 8-track cartridge cassettes. They were mostly in cars, if I remember rightly. I never saw one that anyone had. So the way you could find music, well, let's have a look. You would have the radio. Parents and relatives and friends' record collections, and seeing something in a shop. I think they're pretty much all of the ways. Well, what me and my friend did, there was in Devizes there was Knott's, the record shop, but they sold other things as well as records. And I met one of my longest serving male friends in there in 1980, but we haven't got there yet. There was also Woolworths, there was also W.H. Smith's, and there was also another music shop that I have since, in recent times, bought music from there as well. And there was also the second-hand shop up near the brewery called Mrs. Mead's. That was after the radio, that was my primary source of music, and my friend Gary's primary source of music. So basically what we'd do, I didn't have any money, right? My friend Gary did, because he was the only child and both parents worked, so he could, I think that's true, so he could afford to go and buy records. So what we would do, we'd go up there on a Saturday morning and he'd buy some records. I've also bought some. The first Hawkwind album I bought from there, it just leapt out at me and said, "You need this," and need it I did. And I've still got it. And we would go down there, chat to her, and we'd buy some records, or Gary mostly, and we'd go home and we'd listen to them, and the ones we liked we would keep, and he would keep, and the ones that we didn't, we would take back and resell them to her and buy some more. Anyway, we weren't very well, sadly. What we used to do as well, and I'm not proud of this, is we would go in there, and because she got so used to us coming in, we would grab a bunch of records from the counter that were in the shop and sell them to her, thus getting some money to spend in her shop and buy records. I told you, I'm not proud of it. It's not a good way of being. Anyway, I don't live like that now. So that's how we discovered quite a lot of music. And also, one of the great things was that when we started getting into rock music, there was a programme on Radio 1 on Friday night, the Friday Rock Show, run by Tommy Vance, which possibly many people who are watching this will remember. And that was a source of much music. Much of which I still have today and still listen today. And they used to do live concerts and sessions, so I taped everything I could from a mono radio. I'd have the tape player that I was talking about in the last video in the series, but basically leant up against the radio, and I would record these sessions. So I had the Led Zeppelin sessions and Angel Witch, of which I now have those sessions on CD, as well as the Led Zeppelin ones. And that's how I discovered one of my favourite Led Zeppelin songs, Travelling Riverline Blues, which I love. One of my favourite Zeppelin songs, but didn't make it to an album. But there were others. There was AC/DC, that was a good one as well. And they'd also do concerts from Reading, Whitesnake, Gillan, are two common ones. They were always good. I even used to leave parties just to go home and listen to it. There you go, party had only just started and I was leaving before I became part of the skeleton gang under the table. But that's another story which may or may not be told. And I remember Pink Floyd live at Earl's Court, Dark Side of the Moon. I got a Yes one, Camel, and things like that. But I really did like the metal. The new wave of British heavy metal was hitting, so that was something that got me. And four of the songs, the things that got me, almost immediately I started listening to the Friday Rock Show, were 21st Century Schizoid Man, Heroin, Velvet Underground, Spirit of the Age by Hawkwind, and another long song that escapes me now. It was that memorable. No, really, it just escapes me which one it was. And I was like, wow, oh, Xanadu by Rush. I was, wow, what? No one told me this sort of stuff existed. And there we go. And there started a lifetime of it. Not to mention the gong sessions, which were great. Zero the Hero and the Orgasm Witch and You Can't Kill Me. And also a band called Hibiscus, and a song that I loved but never went to vinyl, called Look, I See the Sun. Okay, well, chorus with me. Listen to those skylarks. Anyway, I think I'm going the right way. I don't know. I mean, I may not be. Anyway, so what we would do, we'd go round down there and then we'd go to Gary's house and play the music. And see whether we liked it. And if we liked it enough, I'd go home or come back another time armed with some tapes and record it. Now, Knots wasn't particularly good for music, really. I remember seeing Son of Morris on, Jake Thackeray, and people I'd never really heard of, and ended up that I didn't like anyway. As well as some Frank Zappa, you know, the old faithfuls used to be there. You'd find them in a similar way that if you go into charity shops now, thrift shops you call them somewhere, in some places, you find the same sort of records in there. Smith's was probably the best place. They had a wider range. One of the, then in about 1978, 1979, Radio Bristol, a local radio station, started to do an afternoon or an hour of a rock show. Might have been 2 hours, but I think it was an hour, called Radio Bristol Rock Show. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and there was a feature, a segment in it where you would send in your top 5 albums, and if they played one of your top 5 albums and read it out, then they would send you a whole load of records. So I sent in a list, and now thinking back now, I mean, I knew exactly what I was doing. I thought to myself, this is a good look around. I thought to myself, if I send in a list full of things I want to hear that I've never heard, then if they do play it, then at least I'll hear one thing. And also I thought to myself, if I do that, it's probably going to get played, and I just knew it. If I'm honest, I knew they were going to feature it. Like when I've won raffles, I knew, you know, like when my name is going to be called at school or in something, I knew, you know. If you look down there, you can see there's the water. Anyway, this one afternoon I was sitting there, and they said, you know, here's our top 5 albums feature, and this week it's said my name, and how it was a very interesting choices. I was like, oh great. And they played, of all the ones they played, they played Brand X, which you've probably never heard of, and if you have, then you're a certain age. There's this nice view. I nearly didn't come here. Ah. And they sent me some free records. Now that was worth it, because of the free records, they were all promotional copies, not for sale. So they were ones sent to DJs and record stations. One was Motorhead single Overkill. Is that the first Motorhead single? Don't know. It's quite weird being there at the start of a genre. You know, I even had a Motorhead t-shirt back when I was, what, 16, 14. So there was that. There was also Saturday Night Beneath the Plastic Palm Trees by the Leighton Buzzards, which is a great song today. I've rediscovered it. And also 2 coloured vinyl singles from when the members of Kiss all did their solo things. There was Gene Simmons' one on red vinyl, which I can't remember. I didn't like it particularly. And there was Paul Stanley's one, which was better. And I did in fact end up keeping that one. Now I'm going to zoom in down here if you don't mind. You can enjoy the river, and that there's a little bit of a, what do you call it, peninsula type thing there. The other records I don't remember. They weren't anything that at the time I liked, so I didn't keep them. I ended up taking them to the said second-hand shop and selling them there and getting something else, possibly EPONA'S by Nazareth, which when we went back to Gary's house and put it on the turntable, he went green with envy. That's an example of how you should start an album, isn't it? An album, a rock album, certainly. So that was that kind of, the whole thing indicated some, or is a theme of my life in a way. Like I went to a gig years ago raising money for a cats and dogs home and did a raffle just to help out, and totally knew when I did it that they were going to call me, you know, and I was going to win something. I didn't, at the time I didn't really want to be going out in front of a whole load of people collecting a prize. Now again, in 1980, which actually, if you look at it, was a peak year for music. Really, lots of bands, lots of amazing albums. It was one of those years, post-punk and all the rest of it. Post-punk, metal, rock, you name it. 1980 had it all, or a lot anyway. Now I'd just done my O-levels, what they now call GCSEs, and in my 17th year, just turned 16 in fact, and I went down to the record shop to have a look through, and there was this other bloke there, or lad there, who was at school with me, who I remember from years, even though our paths didn't cross because we weren't in the same class or anything, although they did cross sort of, and we just started chatting, and turns out we were into the same sort of music, and he ended up buying a couple of AC/DC albums, Back in Black being one of them, and Highway to Hell, I think. He'll probably correct me on that. Ooh. I don't even know if I'm going the right way. It's not, doesn't seem to be on the map. But, oh, there's a view. Look. So we ended up going back to his house and playing these records, and ended up becoming friends, and we're still friends today. And this was just after Gary had now left and gone to Devon. I'm going to turn round here. I'm not even sure I'm on the right way. I think maybe I should have been over there, but that wasn't clear through the... wasn't clear. Now, around this, or just after this time, Knott's closed down and another record shop opened called PR Sounds. And if either Pete or Roger do get to watch this, hello, thanks. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. No, not all their fault, just partly. So I used to go in because I ended up getting some work as an apprentice. I used to have to pay a third of my wages to my mum for rent, and ran a car, and then we got paid on Thursday, so on Thursday I'd go to the record shop and buy a few albums. And this was the reason why my record collection got good, was because I was earning money, quite good money at that age and that time. And then on Saturday morning I'd go down and buy some more. So Pete and Roger would get quite used to me going in, and Roger would often say, "Oh, here, what about this? This might interest you." And, "Oh yeah, here's something. What about this? This might interest you." Okay. Now weirdly, two of those that he gave me, these were demo tapes, or that he sold me. One of which was Blythe Power, which is probably one of my favourite bands. I mean, you know, it's like you can't help who you fall in love with. And the other one is a band who I totally loved, which the main songwriter and guitarist ended up forming what is one of my other favourite bands. But I didn't know this, because as far as I was concerned, at some point in, well, I think 1983, sometime 1983, 84, 83 really, I thought music had died. I really thought music had died, and it was going to be awful from there on in. Well, I'm a guitarist with overdriven distortion built into my DNA, so anything with a keyboard doesn't hit that spot for me. And then there was all the political situation which you know, that was another story, and is. So I go down there, and then I would meet some people, and one of my friends actually ended up working there. Now if we fast forward another, what, 40 years, 30 years, 30, and I went to a shop in another town and ended up, funnily enough, buying what was then the new Killing Joke album. And then Roger said, "Hello, I haven't seen you for a long time." I was like, "Oh, what? Oh, this is weird. I'm about to buy the recent Killing Joke album from you after thinking you'd disappeared. And I bought the first Killing Joke album from you." Now, that's a weird coincidence coming round, isn't it? But that was, yeah, it was great. So, I mean, I'm glad he's still going, because he's really keen and interested in music. And, you know, if you're ever in Marlborough, Avebury, Marlborough, that way, check it out. He's on the north side of the marketplace, through in a little alley, courtyardy area. It's nice, good shop, and he'll get you what you want. Buy from the artist. Buy from a good independent seller, and he knows his stuff. So, I mean, I still probably have loads of records that I bought from him, and I certainly have the two cassettes that I've shown you. No doubt they'll be valuable one day. And cassettes are hard because you have to look after them properly. Lots of fast forwarding and rewinding just knackers them. What you have to do is play them to the end and then get a Bic pen, nothing else will work, get a Bic pen in and tighten up the spools. Don't over tighten them, just tighten them up. And that way you can have tapes last year's. I think I may still have some of the original pack of 12 that I got from Curry's, or my mum gave me and my brother from Curry's. So, you know, they can last and they still play fine. But yeah, as with everything, you have to look after it. So I hope you've enjoyed that in the part 2 of my musical journey. In that, although there are, you know, visits. I mean, I pretty much bought a record every place I went to that wasn't near my town. I remember in Penzance on a holiday I bought Physical Graffiti. I bought the first, I bought Camembert Electric from in Cheltenham when I went there with my friend Rob, who died quite soon after that. They're just 2 I can remember. Oh, I used to come to Bath as well, where the Devon Savouries is. That used to be a record shop, and there was Honest John's round the side street, which is now a bookshop. And you know, I'd find things in there. So very often I'd go to Bath and come back with records. That was my mission. I always had a mission. And that's why going out filming is a good mission for me, because I like a mission. I'm not the sort of going on holiday and sitting around type of person. I need to have a mission, because I get bored sitting around. So I really hope you've enjoyed that. There may be some additionals that I'll think up later, but don't forget, like, subscribe, share, comment, check out the links below, sign up for something. If you want to donate, it's best to do via Patreon, because my PayPal isn't working at the moment. And then you can, you know, sign up and donate for as long as you want. And, you know, and when I get more into, or get to know how to use Patreon to do things, I'll be doing more and more there. That's the plan. So till next time, ta-da.